Good afternoon or good evening, council and everyone else on the line. Welcome to this evening council meeting. It's a little bit different than what we've done before. We are having a web council meeting. All right, but Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Foyce?
Is he unmuted?
Oh, he might be muted, but we see his face. Yep, he's here. And
Sorry, I got muted accidentally.
oh, that's okay. Now we got Mr. Foyce, Mr. Greider,
Here.
Mrs. Jewin.
Here.
All right, thank you. If you would please all join me in a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. The pledge will be led by Major Joe Libo.
Please join me in the pledge.
To the flag, States of America, of like stand, one nation,
Under God.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All
The
right.
motion to approve the agenda as presented and the minutes of March 16th, 2020 regular session as presented and the minutes of the March 19th, 2020 special session as presented.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. We have some proclamations on here today. We had two very special ones from the Waterloo Youth Council, City Council Day of Environmental Action on the April 7th, and the recognition of Case Campbell, Super Pee Wee Wrestling State Champ, and Jaden Finger, USA State Wrestling Champions, but we are going to have those on a later date. But I do have the Census 2020 proclamation. Whereas the U.S. Census Bureau is required by the United States Constitution to conduct a count of the population and provides a historic opportunity to help shape the foundation of our society and play an active role in the American democracy. And whereas the City of Waterloo is committed to ensure every resident is counted, and whereas federal and state funding is allocated to communities and decisions are made on matters of national and local importance based in part on census data. And whereas census data helps determine how many seats each state will have in the United States House of Representatives and is necessary for the accurate and fair redistricting of state legislative seats, county and city councils and voting districts. And whereas information from the 2020 Census and American Community Survey are vital tools for economic development and increased employment, and whereas the information collected by the census is confidential and protected by law. Whereas each person counted during the census can represent up to 20,000 in funding in that area. Now, therefore, I, Quentin Hart, Mayor of the City of Waterloo, do hereby proclaim April 1st, 2020 as Census Day. So, very, very, very important, and you'll be seeing more and more things coming to you, not only from the federal government, but also by the City of Waterloo and the work we're doing thus far. This is oral presentations time, and I believe we have a gentleman that would like to speak to a non-agenda related item. If you would please step up, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Hart. I'm Ted Lederman, 1758 Pinehurst Lane, Waterloo, 50701. And I'd like to address two things. I'm 75 years old. I've lived in Waterloo my whole life, except when I was in the military and in training. So I've lived here about 64 years. I've lived in my current home about 36 years. I've been retired as of March 31st, 8 years. And every Friday when I'm in town, I go with a group of retired men to Hy-Vee to have breakfast at 8 o'clock. And every Friday morning when I go, I take out the garbage. And it's usually there, not picked up when I come back at 10 a.m. On March 6th, I received this notification. You are in violation of Chapter 3, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal of the City Ordinance, circled, not out by 6 a.m. Persons violating the provisions of this chapter shall be guilty of a municipal infraction, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished in accordance with the provisions of subsection 132C of this code. Citations will be issued for repeated offenders on any of the above violations. If you receive 2 citations for the same offense, on the third offense, your trash, recycling, or yard waste will not be picked up until you are in compliance. So if you're going to pick up our garbage at 6 a.m., I'll have it out at 6 a.m. But we're paying to have our garbage picked up. And the fact that we take it out at 8 a.m. and it's not picked up by 10 a.m., I don't see why we should not be in compliance. That's item 1.
Okay.
And the item 2, which really bothered me, I was driving with my daughter. She was actually driving, and I was listening to last week's city council meeting. And City Councilman Klein was against passing a budget, increasing the budget request for the city of Waterloo. And she was verbally attacked by another city councilman, saying that she didn't have a plan to save money and she shouldn't be talking. So I have a plan. As I say, I've lived in Waterloo about 64 years, and I don't want to belittle any workers of the city of Waterloo. And we all hear the politicians speak of income inequality. But what about worker inequality? What about the workers at J.C. Penney? What about the workers at Sears Roebuck? What about the workers at Yonkers? When I was in Waterloo, when I came to work here in 1976, John Deere had 17,000 employees. They may have 3,000. These people have been gone. They've lost their pension. They've lost their medical coverage. By the same token, city workers each year get a raise in salary. Each year they pay less for medical premiums, and they pay less for deductibles on their medical. They're guaranteed a retirement. These people who lose their job get none of that. So I'm suggesting a plan for Mrs. Klein. Maybe we should think about the other people who live in Waterloo and work, the little business people. Look down,
Mr. Lederman.
look down
Mr.
East,
Lederman,
East 4th.
Mr. Lederman, three minutes have gone past. If you want to take about 15 seconds to
Okay,
conclude.
but
we'll allow
look
that.
down East 4th, all of those little businesses. It's not just the employees, it's the owners. I was in Varsity on Kimball Ridge on Saturday, and I see the same girl every day when I come in. And I said, well, how's business? It's Varsity Cleaners. And she said, terrible. I said, what is it? She said, well, all day yesterday while she worked, about 8 hours,
Mr.
they
Lederman,
had
Mr. Lederman,
two.
Can you conclude,
I'm ending,
please?
Mayor, I'm ending. She had 2 people come in to pick up clothes. Normally, it's between 80 and 100. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you, good sir. Right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on non-agenda related items? Going a second time, is there anyone on the telephone that is joining us would like to comment during this oral presentation?
Mr. Mayor?
All right, before we go to council, is there anyone else on the line? All right, so now we'll take council comments. Yes, ma'am.
I received permission to read a letter, and so I would like to, at this moment, read this letter. And it was sent to actually Noel Anderson, so that he would send it on to the rest of us. And it says, would you please pass on my sentiments that the 5.1% property tax hike on commercial property is coming at a highly unfriendly and unfortunate time for companies in this town. Taxes in Waterloo are already rather high, and when combined with other revenue-driven actions by the city, such as the new fire code enforcement system, you certainly aren't putting out the welcome mat. Passage of the tax rate increase, while so many businesses are struggling with a downturn in revenue as a result of COVID-19, is unquestionably a sign that the council is tone deaf to the needs of their constituents and the goal of economic development in Waterloo. Signed, Eric Lee, the Gerald Salty Company.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? I think.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I had read a couple of different things reference to the city employees, and I just don't know what their status is as far as are all of them except non-essential sent home, and have they been sent home with the understanding that they will be on paid administrative leave, or what exactly is the situation? It didn't seem too clear.
All right, thank you. So right now, like the update I gave last week, all of our city buildings are pretty much closed down. We have allowed for contractors. What are the other contractors?
Mail delivery.
Mail deliveries. Can't remember, maybe one more. And we've allowed for people to be able to access public safety. So we basically closed down all of our buildings, from library to Sportsplex and all those areas. Those that we are beginning transitioning, those that can work from home, we are taking a look at that. Mothers that are expectant, or employees with upper respiratory problems, or those most prone to susceptible to health risks with the COVID, are given the opportunity to be gone as well. But we have not sent every employee home at this moment. I sent out an email yesterday after the governor had listed the those who would be self-isolated or self-quarantined, and I sent another email today because I was incorrect. On March 12th, there was a letter that went out from the Human Resources Department that stated that those that are leaving to go on vacation will potentially be susceptible to self-quarantine or quarantine, voluntary or involuntary, when they return. But I sent an email last night that said paid administrative leave, and that was incorrect. So I just sent out an email a little while ago that is working with the COVID Response Act, which gives city employees that have to be self-isolated 2 weeks, I believe, sick time to go with there. So we have given that option. And also another level are essential services, and we're working on a conference call tomorrow with department head. But fire, police, and a few other areas, public works, and maybe one or two areas would be considered essential employees, which if they had been out of town since March 16th till now, they need to, they were supposed to be quarantined, but those workers can actually work if they find a system to be able to test themselves with some type of thermometer. So we are working through that process. I've met with our fire department earlier today, been in contact with Major Libo. So we're kind of working through those particular areas because they would need to have a temperature check at the beginning of the day and also at the end of the day. And this information from the 12th to the 18th to the 22nd is changing at every particular moment. So if employees will have the options of working from home if they're able to work from home. If not, there is some sick time and stuff that's identified by the employee. So the administrative leave that was sent out was incorrect by Quentin Hart. And I sent another email to address that.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear then, the employees are not getting paid administrative leave?
That was messed up. They probably will today, but that was completely messed up on my part. And so the federal government pushed an act, a COVID Response Act, that gives those that are self-isolated, or they call it self-quarantine, but I call it self-isolated, will receive 40 hours. So that will take care of that administrative paid leave.
But I guess I'm still not very clear. So those that have been sent home by order of you or their boss, and they're not sick, those that are sent home because City Hall, as an example, or Center for the Arts, as an example, or the library, as an example, those that are sent home, even though they're not sick, those people are not on paid administrative leave, or they are, or how are they going to get paid?
I can't remember what the hell we wrote. They're still working, aren't they? Yeah, if they're working.
They are.
Yeah, so right now, reporting into some of the departments, if they are coming in, they're still working. If they are able to do work from home, then they are still being paid as well. We are continuing working on this every day. So I'll have Lance reach out to council in the morning with all the documentation.
Okay.
But there's more variables in all of this. All right. Anyone else with questions? All right. I'll accept a motion to close oral presentations.
So moved. Motion to close oral presentations, receive comments, and place on file.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Motion to approve the consent agenda, adding in, I'm sorry, what?
I want to pull something off the consent agenda to discuss.
Okay, let her move the consent agenda in second, and then you can move to pull it off. So please.
Okay, move to approve the consent agenda with the addition to 1A1 in the amount of $2,478,317.74 to receive, approve, and place on file.
Second.
All right, that motion's been made with the second. Mrs. Klein.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to just ask a question about item number 6 on the consent agenda.
Item what?
Number 6.
The asbestos surveys?
Yeah, it just makes me curious how far we've gotten with the grant, the apartment building on the corner of Grant.
So we'll go ahead and pull that off. So can I get a We have a motion and a second for all of the other items. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Mrs. Klein.
I'm just makes me curious. I know that
Can you make a motion to adopt a resolution approving that item?
Okay, I make a motion that, okay, we have a resolution approving the award of asbestos space services contract in the amount of $10,800 to Hawkeye Environmental of Solon, Iowa, for properties located at Sycamore Street, 105 East 10th Street, 300 Allen Street, 1527 East 4th Street, 2127 East 4th Street, St. Mary's Church and School Building, 1526 East 4th Street, Williston Avenue, 179 Rebecca Lane, 1809 Blackhawk Street, 118 Shilliam Avenue, 1004 Fulton Avenue, 817 Bluff Street, Quonset Hut only, 514 Street, 214 Cottage Street, 921 West 2nd Street, and 2020 Hopkins Court, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second, and I guess the question is Grant Avenue on this list? And if it's not, then where is it at? Trying to tie it in.
Well, I'm aware that it's not on the list.
I know,
It just may-
I'm trying to tie it in for you. So Noel is on the line, so Noel. Noel. I kind of like having him muted like this.
Yeah, I had to have Chris unmute me. Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. So 1100 Grant was on the previous list. I know that we did put a call into them actually this morning to see where they were at with the removal. We did not receive a call back, so we'll try again tomorrow morning as quickly as we can. Laverne Lehman is the demolition contractor that is basically waiting for them to get the asbestos out to tear the building down. So everyone's in line to do it. We just need to find out if they've actually got it done.
So Noel, is Hawkeye Environmental doing that one too?
I don't recall if that was the same bidder that got the last contract. I can email you in the morning and find that out.
Can you?
I would,
Yes, ma'am.
I would really like to know that, because I just don't think the company that's handling the Grant Street property has been very good about due diligence and getting the job done. And I'd like to see these properties that are listed on this number 6 to go much quicker.
All right. So Noel, can you reach out to Mrs. Klein and the council, and not 4 people on the same email unless it's for informative purposes, but give an update on exactly where we're at with regards to Grant, and moving these a little bit faster, and also find out who's removing the asbestos too. Yes, sir. Mr. Foyce, I think. Okay, Mr. Foyce.
I just got a text from Mr. Foyce saying he got kicked off from the meeting and got back on, but he's muted right now.
Yep, that's all I needed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Morrissey.
Yes, Noel, is 1100 Grant, is that a Rackham?
No, it was not. They were still able to get in there and remove the asbestos.
Oh,
Remember, they had removed part of it in the main floors, but they had to wait to do the basement because it was flooded. So
yeah,
then
the
when
basement
they
had
got
like
the
6
water out
foot
and we
of
got
water in it,
order.
right?
What'd you say, Mr.
Mr.
Morrissey?
Let me need Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I evidently know this is being held up because of the 6 foot of water in the basement that took time to get out of there.
Mr.
That is
Mayor?
correct.
All right, so
Thank you.
so the holdup is because of the water in the basement. Mrs. Klein.
Well, my thinking is, it's been raining again, and it just seems to me there's a lot of delays in this. Is there any chance we could keep number 6 over until next Monday? Because if this is the same company, I have real concerns about this company getting their work done on time.
There
You
is
don't
no,
have,
there is no meeting until in April, and just my opinion. I don't vote, but my opinion is we need to continue moving forward. Grant has issues of its own. Mr. Anderson will reach out to you tomorrow and get a direct progress report from the removal for that particular property. But I don't think you want to slow these other ones up.
Mr.
Either.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding that what we're approving by this resolution is the survey service
right.
versus the removal.
Right. So,
Okay, thank
so
you.
let's stay, so we're on this one. So, Mr. Klein, if you not comfortable, I don't know who did it last week, but if you're not comfortable, of course, please vote no. But I think we probably need to continue to move forward. So, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes,
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And we have some new board appointments. We have Brandon Schoberg, who is a new appointment to Planning and Zoning, Planning and Zoning, as well as Zachary Hansen to the Community Development Board, and Ms. Ethel Washington continuing her reappointment. Are you Brandon or Zachary? Zachary, Mr. Mayor. All right, so we have Zachary in the audience. We want to say thank you so much for coming here today and joining a Community Development Board. We have great expectations, and we're glad that we have someone as incredible as you joining that board as well. So we look forward to a great relationship. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. I look forward to serving the community.
All right. If you want to leave, you can. If not, you're welcome to stay. Least people, the better today. So thank you. All right. Number 2, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
yes, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication, those in public hearing on a request by AutoZone Incorporated for a site plan amendment to the S1 shopping district to construct a new retail store located south of 3115 Kimball Avenue.
Second.
All right. That motion has been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file the recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
That motion has been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending by official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4 to approve a request by AutoZone Incorporated for a site plan amendment to the S1 shopping district to construct a new retail store located south of 3115 Kimball Avenue.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council, questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
yes,
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. No urgency on this, or because of our economy, we probably need to continue to move business. There you go.
Sorry about that. Noel Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. I think we did not have any opposition at the Planning Commission. We did have one caller asking about traffic for the project. I can tell you as part of the design team for the Kimball Avenue improvements, they did design for the spacing between Park Lane and the access point to Walgreens to the north to have a suitable distance in there for one access point off of Kimball for a turn lane. So this development will actually have a easement on its access drive to allow for another development to the south of it to utilize that same access point for more commercial development. Obviously, I think, the more things we can get approved by council to lessen these agendas as well due to the setup that we're now in is favorable. Plus, they would like to begin construction as soon as possible for the project.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 3, please. Number 3, anyway.
Mayor.
Who was that?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider?
Mr. Amos.
Mr. Amos wants it.
Mr. Amos?
Amos.
See, I wrote
Yes,
your name.
I'd like to make,
I wrote your name down
I'd
on a
like to
piece
make-
of paper because I knew you would go on this one. So you kind of surprised me. Keep going, though.
I'd like to make a motion, receive and file proof of publication and notice of public hearing, and that is a request by PDG Development LLC to vacate a 4,197 square feet stormwater management easement located south of 3834 West 4th Street.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file the recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed. Mr.
Mayor, I'd
Amos.
like to make a motion to receive, file, and consider and pass for the first time an ordinance approving a request by PDG Development LLC to vacate a 4,197 square foot storm water management easement located south of 3834 West 4th Street.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Counsel? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Mr. Schrader just indicated there is a rush to this one.
Eric Schrader, city planner. Yes, they are anxious to build additional units. There was no concern or opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And the easement was only needed to serve them, and they redesigned their storm sewer, so there's no longer any need for the easement.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor.
Mr. Moore? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to know, did we get any kind of negative comments coming into the clerk, city clerk?
No comments were received.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion's been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 4, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for a request by DGOG Waterloo IA 062619 LLC to rezone a 3.082 acre property north of 5225 Dysart Road from R4 multiple residence to CP Planned District to construct a new Dollar General store.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. My name is Joe Russo. I'm with Farnsworth Group, located in Pontiac, Illinois. Our office there is at 301 West Washington Street. I am representing Overland Engineering and the Overland Group, the developer and designer for the proposed store. Just had a couple quick things. I know one of the councilmen had some questions that Rusty Doss, the design engineer, he emailed some responses out to you earlier this afternoon around 1 o'clock. I can address those questions a little bit more if needed. And then the only other item I had was to just respectfully request the suspension of the rules and consideration to pass for the second and third time the adoption of this ordinance, just in the sake of getting construction started for the store here as soon as possible.
I would probably say if you wanted to kind of clarify some of those comments from council, this would be a great time to do it. And then once we close out the hearing, I'm pretty sure they may have 1 or 2 questions after. But if you want to talk about some of those things that you guys responded to, that'll be great to do it now.
Okay, no, absolutely. The biggest comment was in regards to site distance, with that curve on the road at that location. We submitted a couple comparable traffic studies for other towns we've developed stores in. Those studies weren't on a curve, that was the concern. But with a site distance of 470 feet that we've identified, even on a curve, that site distance is going to be sufficient for oncoming traffic to be able to notice another vehicle and slow down or stop. There was a comment as far as sometimes storage containers being set up outside the stores just to achieve some more storage. That's not going to be the case for this store. The newly constructed prototype buildings will have plenty of internal storage. And then finally, there was a question about the subdivision of the property after rezoning, and that is just to merely split off the property for the Dollar General store from the current landowner's property there at the site.
All right. And I know council is probably going to have some other questions, but one of the comments that I did receive from just a couple people was with regards to the organization of the store inside, from the ability to be able to walk comfortably through aisles, just the spacing and product and look of the internal store. Have you and I can wait to council, but any thoughts about that portion of it?
I know this is the first time we're hearing of anything, of this manner within the store itself, of, things kind of being scattered all over the place and anything like that. I mean, that's something we could follow up with, once the store's open, if that seems to be the case. But right now, we've not been aware of any issues like that.
Okay. All right. So.
But that is, I mean, there has been in previous stores and in different areas, things we follow up with after the fact when the actual store management themselves are not, coming through and satisfying Dollar General
Right.
requirements and city requirements.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else before we go to council comments? All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral comments and recommendation of approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a rezone of certain property located north of 5225 Geyser Road.
Second.
All right. That motion has been made with the second. Council,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bozen.
Yeah, I appreciate the information from the gentleman representing Dollar General, because those were all my questions. My concern is that curb. My concern is that the road is a 45-mile-an-hour road, and I live out here, and I don't object to Dollar General, but I know the traffic on that road. It's dump trucks, tandem dump trucks, semis, garbage haulers, and 45 mile an hour is basically their minimum speed. I approached Sandy Greco this year about doing a traffic study and the ability to possibly lower the speed limit on Geyser Road to 35, which she said that they couldn't do that until the construction was completed. Well, this construction project was supposed to be done in 1 year, and now it's a 2-year project. And so I was told that we wouldn't be able to do the traffic study until the completion of this construction season's construction on the new road. As far as the trip generation data, I appreciate the fact that they sent that this weekend, and I read it. The two stores, Lawrence, Iowa, and Osage, Iowa. The Lawrence, Iowa store is a store that has two different streets that have entrances into the Dollar General, and the Osage, Iowa. I would have preferred to have a study done here on that road as opposed to accepting a study from two smaller towns in Iowa. I appreciate the answer to the application on the subdivision. And then my other question was, is that road's going to be completely tore up for the entire construction season coming up. And I know Dollar General, when they do come in, I mean, they move right along and they put that store in a short period of time. I'd like to know if what kind of access they're going to have during that entire construction season, because the north end of Geyser from Summerland to Shawless didn't get done this year, and it's going to be started, or last year, and it's going to be started the first of opening up this construction season. So those are a number of questions that I'd like to get answered. And one of the reasons about the 45 mile an hour curve that bothers me is because it was brought up in the initial planning and zoning as the possibility of needing turning lanes. And if you see that the way the traffic runs through here, I can see the need for that. So I have some issues with this, and I have some reservations on how I'm going to vote tonight. But I would like to get some of those, completed before I make an affirmative vote.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. So before we go there, does the developer have anything to say, or Noel or anyone about Mr. Bozen's comments?
Well, I know in regards to the site access, I know it's actually the property, the seller lives just to the south of the proposed store location. So I know we were assuming some kind of a that road, Dysart Road, maintaining open to open to local traffic type situation, for that person to access his home, and then we'd still be close enough that we could, access our store location as well. That's what we were anticipating. I can't say that for sure. And then just in regards to the traffic study, obviously we would prefer to use the data that we've submitted. I mean, the numerous sites we've done in Iowa have never warranted a turn lane. I guess rather than completing a traffic study at the site, if we were able to find a traffic study for a larger municipality, a more traveled road, preferably even with a curve, if we could show, that data was comparable and that no turn lane was required, would that please the council? Would that be sufficient data?
Mr. Bozen.
Yeah, I would like to see that. Like I say, the road is heavily traveled and at a high rate of speed to speak of. So that would ease some of my concerns, especially the fact that not putting in turn lanes.
All right. Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and Noel and Eric Schrader, this motion is to rezone.
Hey, Mr. Morrissey, could you please speak? The phone is kind of muzzled right now.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, can you hear okay now?
A little bit. Did you move away from it?
No, I moved closer. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you slightly. I may have to interpret for you.
Well, I got the volume up as loud as it will go, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
That was a little better.
That was better.
Okay,
There we go.
the question that I have is, this is a rezone only. Is that correct, Noel?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. So it is a rezone, but it is rezoning to a planned commercial district. So the council does have some say over the design layout for how the site plan is actually oriented.
But does this specifically refer to Dollar General? Or does it rezone for any commercial business operation?
This will refer to what's actually built out there, and the traffic study obviously is for a Dollar General. But let's say that in 2 years, Dollar General decides to change it into a different retail store, that would not change any exterior footprints. There wouldn't necessarily be any approval by council. But if they were to change it to a Quick Star that would have gas pumps and things like that, that would have to come back through the council for a change.
So tonight we are approving, if we choose to approve, this rezoning, and it includes that Dollar General will be going into that location if rezoned.
That is correct. And one thing to add too is, and Eric can correct me if I'm wrong, if another retail user were to go in there that staff would have a concern had a lot higher volume of traffic or something like that, that could be referred back to council to change the use as well, because obviously part of the examination of this whole approval and layout is because of traffic patterns and location of the driveway and all that.
Okay, and so if we would deny this tonight, my question is, have they met all the zoning requirements for this rezoning?
This application did go through the Planning Commission, and before that it went through the Technical Review Committee. They have met all the requirements for what the zoning ordinance requires for this. The Technical Review Committee did look at utilities, did look at the traffic study, and asked for the site distance information that was supplied by the applicant. So I believe they have met all the requirements and the criteria that have been asked of them by staff and as required by the zoning ordinance.
And one more, Noel, if we were to deny this, could there be legal action against the city of Waterloo for denying it if they meet all those requirements?
I don't know if Marty is there. I think they'll always tell you there can always be legal action. It's whether or not, we think it's defendable and all that. Obviously, if the council has some serious concerns for the site layout or the use there or the traffic, the council has a purview to vote how they wish. I would say if you have some concerns that you think, are currently out there but could be rectified by further traffic investigation and all that, instead of denying it, it may be best to postpone it for the 2-week hiatus to see if more data can be applied or something like that, if it's just a matter of getting more information for the request.
And if I could add one more, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And that is, Noel, isn't this the site of where we're going to have a junction for people that are arriving from the south on whether it's Dysart Road or 218 and along Chalice Road and from the north? Isn't this the turn for the proposed planned theme park?
And I don't know if Ed can put that map back up on the screen. The intersection is a little ways away, but that is exactly where this curve heads to, is that intersection. And there will be some changes and modifications made to that. Jamie may be able to give more information. That'll be adding turn lanes onto 218, basically setting up the lighting system, the traffic signals that are all unified to make efficient flow in there for when the theme park comes.
And what I'm saying, Noel and Mr. Mayor, is that my concern is for the amount of traffic that's going to be coming through there, which I think is going to be as a result of a very successful theme park, and the problems that would be caused by having a business like this there. I can't imagine the quagmire we're getting ourselves into by having a business that close and that involved with that intersection. And that's all I got to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Grider.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've had some constituent concerns raised to me about this site, seeing as it's in my ward. And Mr. Boson did a good job of sussing out the traffic concerns, which I've also heard, so I'm not going to belabor that point. I did have a question. There's a lot of concern from the constituents I talked to about foot traffic in that area, given that it is a 45-mile-an-hour road, and they already have concerns about foot traffic, but they have more concerns now with children and other people who don't have access to personal vehicles walking along this road. I just want to make sure I'm reading the site plan correctly, that, and I don't know directly who this question's to, but it looks like there's a sidewalk from the shoulder to the store, but that sidewalk does not extend down the property line along the shoulder. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Joel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. Yes, that is correct. That is what they proposed so far. If you look at that map that showed that the property that they're acquiring, it doesn't really curve around to the intersection much. So it'd be difficult for them to put a sidewalk along their frontage. So they would have a sidewalk going from the store to the shoulder. There's not much else planned in the immediate future for a sidewalk in that area. That doesn't mean that can't change. We are working on the Chalice Road Trail to the north that would be coming from the Isle of Capri to that 218 intersection or somewhere in that nature to find a safe crossing to eventually get to the east. But there's nothing on the south side here planned at this point.
Sure, and I understand that this perhaps is not this particular tenant's job, but that's a concern my constituents have about this, is that it would increase foot traffic, which is good for the store, but that might be hazardous for people if the weather is not great or it's dark or things along that nature without a designated foot traffic space. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Other comments,
Mr. Mayor, I
questions?
have one more thing when the rest of the council's done.
Mr. Bozen?
If the rest of the council's done speaking, I just have one more thing.
Well, I have one thing to say, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I also got a couple of calls about this, and I'm not even anywhere near that ward, but I did. I got a couple of calls of concern, actually mirroring what Mr. Greider said and what Mr. Morrissey said, and Mr. Boson.
Okay, duly noted. Mr. Bozen?
Well, the two things that I had a question on would be, I would like to get that data on the site distance for another store with a curve or with that speed limit, number one. And the other thing is I would like to see, I know that the farmer that has that lane that goes up there, they were going to create a temporary access for him during this construction so he could get to his house. I would like to see that so we could see how this traffic is going to be routed and how it's going to be brought into the Dollar General complex prior to voting for it. So that being said, I would like to postpone this until the first April meeting so we could get that information and then bring it back at that time.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
So you want a study done by then?
Excuse me, sir?
Tell me what you want again so we can record it.
The two things that I would ask is that we get the site data plan that Dollar General offered on a busier road. This is 45 miles an hour compared to the ones that I was given, and that we could see the construction plan for the north part of the desert reconstruction that was going to give access to that farmer that owns that land, because his lane comes about 200-300 feet to the south of where the store is going to go. So all I would like to do is to see how they were planning on utilizing his lane to get into Dollar General and how that's going to affect traffic in and out of there on a temporary road that's just there to serve that farmer during the construction process.
Okay.
And this is, sorry to cut in and you can tell me if I'm incorrect, but this is Joe Russo with Farnsworth Group. Yeah, we're totally fine. We'll find a traffic study that's comparable. If some of the ones we've done in the past are not comparable, we have no issue. We'll come to the site and we'll prepare a study for the store if needed. I would ask if someone with the city could pass those plans along for us too, because as I said, we were assuming that section of Dysart Road wasn't going to be completely closed. So if there is only some kind of a temporary access that we need to account for to get to the site, or even, customers once the store is open, that would be great for us to have, because that may be something we need to accommodate that we weren't planning on before.
Okay. So we have you said postpone this to next
To April 6th.
to the next meeting, and site data for a busier road and a construction plan to the north. So Noel, you got that?
Got it.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, sir, we'll pick this up. I guess, Noel, you'll be talking and working on the things behind the scenes for the next council meeting. All right, thank you. Number 5, please.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
5 is a motion to receive and file proof of publication's notice of public hearing for fiscal year 2020 street reconstruction program number 993.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time? Nothing, Tim?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
Second.
A motion to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion for a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question.
Mr. Morrissey first.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Hello?
Mr. Morrissey.
Okay. Well, my question is, which streets will this apply to? And then my other thing is I see that this involves asphalt rather than concrete. Wouldn't the cost of the additional cost of concrete bring more longevity to this?
Is Jamie there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Jamie, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Morrissey's question, we get this question once every year and a half, and it's crept up again. You want to answer Mr. Morrissey's question?
I certainly can. Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. We received only one bid for this particular reconstruction program. We did not receive a concrete bid, so this is the one where we bid it both ways, asphalt or concrete. I do have a second bid, reconstruction bid that will be coming up in a couple weeks that will be concrete only, and there's various reasons for that. But that one, again, will just be concrete only.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Mr. Bozen?
Yes. Councilman Morrissey asked mainly what I was going to be discussing, and I was just curious if we actively pursue contractors on the concrete side as compared to the asphalt side, since we only have one bid.
All right, so you're good to go?
Yeah, that's it, sir.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids and refer to the city.
Hold on 1 second. We're at the adopt a resolution. So for the adopting the resolution, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mrs.
Now
Klein.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct the city clerk to read bids and refer to the city engineer for review.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. Is that a roll call?
All in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys shouldn't sound so excited on the phone over there. Let's get some excitement here, but thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
All right, our bid for the asphalt our estimate for asphalt was $3,596,184.50. The estimate for concrete was $3,938,901.25. We received one bidder. It was from Aspro Incorporated. They bid on asphalt. Their bid amount was $3,644,934.30.
All right, thank you. Number 6, please. Mr. Morrissey. I thought I heard somebody say something. Sorry. Who? Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the fiscal year 2021 complaint mowing with complaint snow removal contract.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
That motion's been made with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Morrissey?
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
All right, our estimate for the total cost of the contract was $50,000. We received one bid. It was from B&B Lawn Care Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. The bid was done in 5 different options. For option A, their bid amount was $2,294. Option B, $2,294. Option C, $91.75. Option D, $91.75. And option E, $107.75.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey?
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution to what Kelly just said.
That motion, well, we probably want to read. So you made a motion to approve the award to B&B Lawn Care for option A, $22.94, option B, $22.94, option C, $91.75, option D, $91.75, and option E, $107.75. That motion has been made with the...
Second.
And approving the bonds and certificate of insurance in conjunction with the 2020 complaint mowing with complaint snow removal contract and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 7, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Foyce?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is a request by Lamar Advertising for a site plan amendment to the S1 Shopping Center District to allow for the construction of a 45-foot tall, 378 square foot off-premises billboard located at 2010 Sears Street.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone there's anyone in the audience, period, but is there anyone that would like to make comments to this particular item? Going a second time.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
The motion.
Oh, sorry. Motion to close public hearing and receive the recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed. Mr.
I'd like to
Foyce?
make a motion to receive, file, and consider pass for the first time an ordinance amendment to ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a site plan amendment on certain property.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor.
We'll go with Mr. Bozen this time first.
I appreciate it. The only question I had there, I believe someone from Lamar Advertising had called in to speak, and I don't know if he got muted out or what.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
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 Am I able to speak?
Yes, you are. Mr. Bozen, did you have any question first, or you're just introducing them?
No, sir.
Because I forgot they were
was just-
here.
Speak.
All right.
Try to let him speak, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tom Weber, 209 East Main Street in Dunkerton. I'm the real estate manager with Lamar Advertising. I've been in the outdoor advertising business for 30 plus years, and some of you may recall that I was here in 2016. I was asking for approval for a billboard at 2010 Sears Street. With the current proposal, we've moved the location from the back of the building to the side of the building, which would eliminate the concerns that Crossroads Mall had and another neighboring business. It should eliminate those concerns that they had for that proposed location. We'll meet the 1,000-foot separation required from our other billboard. Although there's another sign within 1,000 feet that's considered off-premise, it's not a billboard, and the other sign was granted a variance for their placement. We'll meet all other requirements for setback and height. Our proposed sign would be a static vinyl on the southwest side and a digital billboard on the northeast side. We already have the same type of billboard on the corner of San Martin and Fleming. This new sign would be 44% smaller. And we have so much request for the existing advertising space on that sign at San Martin and Fleming that we have to turn business away. And the businesses we decline are mostly local businesses. And the majority of the current advertisers are also local businesses. Just to give you an idea of who we have advertising there, since January 1st, we've reserved spots for Unity Point, Mercy One, Humanity Forward, which was the Andrew Yang campaign, Greater Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau, local branches of the Green State Credit Union, Coca-Cola, Iowa Lottery, Iowa Beef Council, Meskwaki Casino, the Isle Casino, Viridian Credit Union, Perkins Restaurant, Gallagher Blue Dorn, Upper Iowa, UNI, and Gator Machining of Independence to advertise their job openings. Lamar Advertising reserves space on all our digital signs for emergency or public service. We can put up a design within minutes of receiving the information, and we encourage local and national law enforcement to use us in case of emergency. You probably noticed we've been running the coronavirus information spot since the beginning of March. We run sheriff, FBI notices, local emergencies, and Amber Alerts. I also get Amber Alerts on my phone. And about a year ago when I was in Crossroads Hy-Vee, my phone buzzed for an Amber Alert. And when I walked outside the store, I noticed that we already had the information running up on our digital for that Amber Alert. So I was pretty proud of that. I say this because the last time I was here, a member of this group asked what we do for the community and what Lamar brings to the table. We also donate a large amount of our advertising space for local public service and events. And just in the past year, they include Northeast Iowa Food Bank, Salvation Army, Cedar Valley Crime Stoppers, Alive and Running Suicide Prevention, American Cancer Society, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Habitat for Humanity, the Ambets Fish Fry, College Hill Arts Festival, Unity in the Community Program, the Riverview Center, Strictly Business Expo, 1-800-BETS-OFF, Hartman Reserve, Cedar Falls Exchange Club, Variety Club, YWCA, Cedar Bend Humane Society. I also want to address concerns about distracted driving and digital billboards. There's numerous studies on the subject, and for everyone that says digital billboards will distract the driver, I can probably show you another one that says it does not. The one I like to point to is a 2013 study by the Federal Highway Administration, because they're the authority and they're also impartial. And they said, quote, "The presence of digital billboards does not appear to be related to a decrease in looking toward the road ahead," unquote. The currently widely accepted threshold for durations of glances away from the road that result in a higher crash is 2,000 milliseconds. And this value comes from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. And that study showed significant increase in crashes when people looked away for more than 2,000 milliseconds. The Federal Highway Administration study that I talked about a minute ago said that the average gaze to a digital billboard was 379 milliseconds, and to a standard billboard was 335. The longest gaze to a digital billboard was 1,335 milliseconds, and a standard billboard was 1,284. And both numbers are well below the 2,000 milliseconds threshold set by the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. Additionally, that when they reviewed the video data, it showed that the signs were not far from the forward view of the participants' gates when they looked at them. Therefore, the drivers still had access to information about what was in front of them through their peripheral vision. A summary of the study said that the results did not prove evidence indicating that digital billboards were associated with unacceptably long glances away from the road.
Right. So, given that, council, questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wondering if the representative if Mr. Weber could address why this location over others.
Mr. Weber, why this location?
It's because of the traffic saturation there, and also because it's at a stop sign, and that's where we would get the most bang for the buck. Our advertisers would get the most bang for the buck. Like I said, most of the requests we get is from local advertisers, and we have to turn so many of them away that we feel there's a huge need for more advertising space there. And our clients also feel there's a huge need for it.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, if I could ask, has there been any negative comments from anybody?
Any comments on file or?
There are no comments on file.
No comments on file, Mr. Morrissey.
And any negative comments during P&Z commission meeting?
Eric Schrader, city planner. There were no negative speakers at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, council? All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
We have to vote on the consider and pass for the first time. So, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Foyce.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
A motion's been made with second. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Nope.
All right. Mr. Foyce.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt said ordinance.
Second.
Motion's been made with the second. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Nope.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Could someone out of resolutions take 8, 9, and 10?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Klein.
number 8 is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with HR Green, Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in an amount not to exceed $544,971.75 in conjunction with fiscal 21 Shawless Road reconstruction, Hess Road to Highway 218, contract number 1020, and authorizing the mayor to execute said document. Number 9 is a resolution approving amendment to development agreement and minimum assessment agreement with Dolly James 2 LLC and High Yield LLC, originally approved on September 8th, 2015, reassigning the agreement to 6Com Properties LLC, adjusting completion dates and minimum assessment agreement dates, include additional property with the agreement, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. And finally, number 10 is a resolution approving an early access agreement with Three Stooges LLC to allow earth-moving activities in preparation of development of the site south of 1246 Martin Road and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. Questions about these three items?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen?
on item number 8, I wanted to ask if we've identified a funding source for this project.
On number 8?
8,
Okay.
the $544,000 for the HR Green.
All right,
professional
Jamie.
service.
Jamie.
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. I believe so. I've had discussions this morning with Michelle Wagner, our chief financial officer, and with Mr. Anderson as well, and I believe we've come up with where we're going to pay for this from at this point.
Okay, and that was my question, because if we haven't identified a funding source, which we haven't really identified one, I would like to approve it basically subject to identifying the funding for this particular project.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bozen. Any other questions?
And then I have I'll wait. I have a question on 9 too, so.
That's a different one. If you want to go ahead, we're all sharing is caring, so you can go.
I appreciate it, sir. I had a question on this development agreement, and I brought this up during our budget hearings on TIF, CURE, and CLERA, because this development agreement is for 75% tax abatement for 20 years. And I have a real issue at 20 years, number one. But this one was originally started September 8th of 2015 with an original start date of June 30th, 2016, and a completion date of 12 months after that. So, and I know there were some issues with funding in that, but now the new agreement is went from 45% tax abatements to 75% tax abatements for 20 years, with a construction date beginning 8/31/20 and ending 14 months after that for completion. And I need to know, are we dealing with, are we going to have more problems with funding sources? Because in some of my emails with staff, they may have identified that funding sources may be an issue in the future with the housing credits and that. And this would be another one I would like to hold off until the April meeting, and only because I would like from staff a list of the development agreements that we've entered into with this particular group, and then where those individual agreements are at this point in time, and the construction projects at this point in time. I know we got the Arts Mall project, and I know we at one time agreed to a 200,000 square foot warehouse out by Wagner Road. I'd just like to know what are outstanding projects that we've developed, that we've entered into an agreement with this particular developer, and where those projects are at this point in time.
And Noel?
Yes, Mayor. Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. We can definitely provide that list of development agreements that are actively out there and the ones that are completed with the developers. So you can kind of get a broader picture of what they have built and what they are working to build.
I would really appreciate that, and I would like to move to postpone this until the first meeting in April, so we could get this information.
Second.
All right, motion's been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs.
Mr.
Jewin?
Morrissey?
Yes.
Hello?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes, in conjunction, my second was made for number 9, and I second also the finding of why we're moving from a 42% rebate for 20 years to 75% for 20 years. I just don't understand that in any way, shape, or form. That's number 9. But number 8, I would also like to have postponed to a certain time, because I want to know where that funding is coming from before I vote on it. I don't want, we're going to try to come up with it. No, before I vote, I want to know where that funding is coming from. So
So,
I asked that that be postponed as well, number 8.
with regards to number 9, that's on the table to be postponed to a further meeting. I think, even instead of, having Noel answer the question that Mr. Morrissey asked right now, we'll answer it then. But, number 9 is on the table to be postponed to the April 6th meeting. Any questions about the postponement? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I
yes.
would like to second Mr. Morrissey on his proposal on number 8.
All right, so number 8, and I think staff said they did have it, so maybe we'll go postponement number 8, Madam Clerk, for the,
Mr. Mayor, that would be till April 6th as well,
okay,
correct?
thank you.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
No.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let's vote on number 10, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos? On
Yes.
number 10. Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 11.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and consider pass for the first time an ordinance amending the City of Waterloo Traffic Code by amending 45 East 4th Street to Section 553, no parking here to corner, by deleting said subsection 45 and inserting in lieu thereof a new Section 45 East 4th Street to Section 553, no parking here to corner, as follows. East side in the 2000 block in the southerly direction from Charles Street. East side in the 700 block in the southerly direction from Pine Street. West side in the 1700 block in the southerly direction north of Newell Street.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey?
I just if Sandy could explain real quickly why this is necessary.
Sandy?
Uh,
Randy?
This is Randy. This is Randy Bennett, Public Works Division Manager. This was actually a request from the business to give them better access, both in and out during peak times of their business.
Okay.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein?
No.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt said ordinance.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein.
Nope.
All right, thank you, council. Thank you so much. Someone want to
Motion
adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
That motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, see you later, council.